Study Session 3. Common terms used in statistics. Introduction. The teaching of statistics involves the understanding of concepts that are used in scientific research. This study session will therefore focus on scientific concepts that are used in statistics. Learning outcomes. When you have studied this session, you should be able to explain the meanings of concepts such as variables, data, population, parameter, and sample. Variable. A variable is any measurable feature which has the potential of taking different values when it is quantified. It includes such human features like weight, sex, intelligence quotient IQ, etc. These human characteristics can assume different values when different individuals are evaluated, or when the same individuals are evaluated on different occasions. Classification of variables. Variables in research are classified into three. 1. Independent variables, IV. Independent variables are those that are easily manipulated by researchers so as to determine their effects on another set of variables called the dependent variables. In fact, the independent variables are the variables of interest in a research. 2. Dependent variables, DV. Dependent variables change in values as a result of changes in the independent variables. It is the variables obtained on the dependent variables that constitute the data needed for statistical analysis in a research. 3. Extraneous variables. These are also referred to as secondary, nuisance, or concomitant variables. They are variables that have similar effects on the dependent variables like the independent variables, but they are not the independent variables of concern. Extraneous variables have to be checked in every research to prevent their contaminating the dependent variable and thereby providing alternative explanations for any change observed. An example is a research designed to examine the effect of noise on academic performance of students. The independent variable is noise, while the dependent variable is academic performance. A possible extraneous variable is the student's level of intelligence, class of study, age, and the like. Measurement of variables. Variables can be measured in two forms: discrete and continuous measurement. A discrete measurement of variable can take up to only finite values of raw scores with no fractions or decimals. It could be countable data, such as the number of students who registered for a course. Data generated from the conversion of qualitative data to quantitative data contain discrete values. Discrete values are in the form of 1, 20, 70, 200, and so on. These are always whole numbers. A continuous measurement of variables can take up any values within a given range. Thus, they accommodate fractions or decimals. For instance, between the range of 1 and 2, we may have 1.33, 1.52, 1.75 to 2. Data on continuous measurements normally come from interval or ratio scales. These include measurements like height, weight, money, etc., which could be expressed in decimals or fractions like 5.2 meters, 70.3 kilometers, or 7 naira 40 kobo. Data. Collections of numbers or measurements used to represent or quantify observation during research before transformation to other statistical forms is referred to as raw data. For instance, students' score in an examination can be used to represent academic performance and could be taken as data for the research on effect of noise on academic performance. Types of data. Data can be grouped into two: quantitative or numerical data and qualitative or non-numerical data. Quantitative data arise from measurable characteristics of objects such as height, weight, length, width, IQ scores, age, anxiety level, income, and the like. On the other hand, qualitative data arise from non-numerical characteristics of objects such as sex, religion, occupation, marital status, color, and some yes or no responses. The numerical characteristics of objects are referred to as variables, while the non-numerical characteristics of objects are called attributes. However, non-numerical data could be converted to numerical data by counting the number of cases falling in a given attribute. This may vary from 1 to infinity. By so doing, such values can also be called variables, just like the numerical data. An example is sex as an attribute, which may be expressed in terms of the number of males and the number of females. Sex is thereby converted to a numerical value called variable. Population. This is also referred to as universe. It is ideally defined as a large group of people, animals, objects, responses, or measurements that are alike in at least one respect. Thus, we have a population of all Yoruba students in the University of Ibadan, a population of all white rats of a given genetic strain, the population of undergraduate students in the University of Nigeria, and the population of all federal government workers in Ibadan. Parameter. This refers to the describable features of a population. They are the features or characteristics that a collection of people or objects possess that allow them to be called a population. For example, a population of undergraduate students has the feature of grouping all undergraduates and thereby excluding the postgraduate students. Sample. This is a subset of a population, usually drawn from the population randomly or otherwise for the purpose of generalization to the population. In the behavioral sciences and education, it is not often easy to study the entire population of interest. Consequently, only a part of the population is taken for study, and this part is representative of the entire members in the population under study. The part selected for a study is the sample. When the sample is selected in scientific ways, all the characteristics of the population are believed to be reflected in the chosen sample. Such sample is then referred to as a representative sample of the population. In a class of 60 students, 10 of them could be selected as a sample if the selection is done randomly. We will discuss the concept of sampling in the next study session. So far, we have discussed some statistical terminologies. Now, walk through the following activities referring to this study session. To complete the activity, you need a small collection of different types of books in your office or home. About 20 will do. What data would you want to collect? If you collected data initially as raw data, how would you record this data? Make a tally of your data. Use the table below. Add lines as necessary. On the table above, as indicated in the third column, record the frequencies of the colors. Is it necessary to group your data? Explain your answer. Can you find the range for this data? Explain your answer. What form of data collection did you use? Did you use random selection to find your data? What is the population of the data that you have collected? And lastly, did you need to choose information from a sample when you collected your data? Note, you may refer to statistics on pages 1, 2, and 3 and additional reading material in the bibliographic section for further help. Once you have collected and recorded data in a table like this, questions 3 and 4 of the activity above. Once you have collected and recorded data in a table like you have in questions 3 and 4 of the activity above, you have a frequency table of your data. If you look at the frequency table, you can start to answer descriptive and interpretive questions about your data, such as the questions in the following activities. Which color was the most common in your collection of books? Which color was the least common in your collection of books? Do you think that another collection of books would have the same numbers of different colors as you have found? Study session summary. In this study session, we defined and provided explanations on some statistical concepts. Anything that can change in value or form is referred to as a variable. It could exist as independent, dependent, or extraneous variable. Measurement of variables could be expressed in discrete or whole number form, as well as in continuous form or measures with decimals or fractions. A collection of objects with similar features is called a population. The features which the members of the population possess that characterize their being called a population are referred to as parameter. A subset that is drawn from a population is a sample. Numbers, or a measurement used to represent or quantify observations during research, is called data, which could be qualitative or quantitative. End of study session 3. Thank you for listening.